makes the case more compelling. And even in my name, Elizabeth, what does Elizabeth mean? God's promise, God is my choice. What does Marie mean? Rebellious. When you're having a kundalini like I did, it's a integration of two different polarities, positive and negative. It's in my flippin' name. It's in the, so it tells me that my life path, that was part of my life path to do that because it's in my name. It's too coincidental. So, and also look at this, which is really funny. They're all named Donald, right? Well, what does Donald mean? World ruler. Okay, these guys have all, you know, when they split up the gods to rule over certain, whatever it is, however they agreed on, I'm sorry, I don't remember, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, they were split up to have different roles. So how funny that all their names are Donald. And just another parallel down here, I highlighted this George Washington because he's responsible, I think, for the coining of the term of empire state. And George Washington is also the reincarnation of Donald Trump, or Donald Trump. That's one of his incarnations. And yes, he has soul splits. And I think you can see him on SEMQ's site. So, let's see. Okay, so this one I want you to see because now I'm going to give another identity here. All right. So in that confirmation of my father being Poseidon, my father passed away of Alzheimer's in 2009. Well, guess who was born in, of all days, February 18th, the same day that my grandfather died? Donald John Trump Jr. III was born on February 18th, 2009, the same year my father died. So a couple months before my father died, Don Jr. the third was born, and boom, there's my dad. That's the reincarnation of my father, and we did get that confirmed. And again, so the pattern's repeating here. Don John, Don John, Don John. And I just want to say it doesn't always happen like this. It doesn't. I'm just very lucky, okay? I just got lucky, and that's why I'm showing you this, because it's so matchy-poo. It becomes a no-brainer. It's like the story's meant to be told. So a couple symbols here, and I'm not sure why this is coming out blurry, because this is, oh, I know why. I clicked on the docx. So let's do this one, because I can't really tell on here. This is probably the PDF. Here we go. So now think about it. World ruler, world wielder. Donald Trump is the president of the United States of America. Look at the symbolism, the national symbols of the country. What do you have? You have the eagle. You have the oak tree. Oh, that's funny. The oak tree is the symbol of Zeus.
It's a symbol of Roma too. I mean, it's
right.
I have problem with your research method. I must say it. I cannot not say it. And if I take myself, I can find correspondence throughout anything as long as I put myself in my head that I will find this to correspond to me. And I will find it if I want to think in that track. And to me, it's not the right research method. And like it could be Roma as we are, it could be Caesar. If we look at it, if we search for it and that we want to be it, and we will find corresponding dates around Caesar and all those things.
Yeah, I don't think that's true.
You know, and the research, to me, it's not proof. You have to, you cannot start from yourself and wanting something to do a research. You have to start from something and then do the research completely independently and with independent thinking.
But do you know what makes a compelling case? And the patterns I'm following are how you do other cases too. So I'm not showing anything outside of what you couldn't do with other people.
I understand, but I will find patterns for my life all over if I wish to find them, and they might not be real.
So then I would say to you, then come up to me and then show the identical patterns that I'm showing you with these identities and apply them to yourself and see if it fits.
I could.
And then you would have to repeat that. But do you know who you are? Do you know who you've been? To see if those patterns match to who you were?
I do have ideas.
Okay.
You know, but I tell you, I could think about anything and make it fit to me if I wish to. And it wouldn't be the truth. And that's the research method I'm talking about. I don't say it's not true what you're saying,
Uh-huh.
okay? And I don't say it's not helpful for you. It's the research method that you have that I don't agree with.
And I'm using a research method that experts use. So just so you know,
I'm not
I
sure
didn't just
that
make
they
this
go
up.
to Zeus and things like that. I'm not sure.
Well, most
that-
people don't go that far back,
You know,
that's the thing. But
yeah.
the methodology, the markers, just like I told you that she said in the quote, that Val said in the quote,
But
it's the markers.
But example, for Mary Stewart, when you
Uh-huh.
look at the nose bridge that she has, which is much thinner than yours.
But remember, that's a reconstruction mask,
No,
it's
no,
not
no,
the
no,
death
no, no,
mask.
no, let me finish.
Okay,
Okay, when I went to the optometrist and they put glasses on me, I couldn't have the goddamn glasses that are made in Europe because my nose bridge was too large. And I look very, very occidental white features. And then I asked the optometrist, why is that? And he says, because you don't have a European nose bridge. A lot of people in America have some Indian blood mix, which is my case, and it shows in my nose bridge. Okay, it will be a bit larger. It doesn't mean that I'm not whoever ancestor I was in Europe, but it doesn't mean that I am. Okay, it doesn't mean that I'm not the French guy I was in the past life that I think I was. But he had a very different nose than mine. And it's, to me, the research method is wrong. That's just, I have to say.
if you can show me a researcher that's showing what you're saying more, because what I'm doing is just what other researchers in the field do. They look for these markers,
Yeah.
and like I said with the Mary Stewart, biometrics don't lie, and that's why the FBI is using biometrics. That's why you have an FBI profiler embedded in the
Yeah, but
reincarnation field,
I have
because
about
they know.
10 people that looks like me in my own province, and they have the same biometrics, yet they're not me, and they don't.
Well,
have
how do you
the
know
same
it's not a soul
passport.
split?
No, it's not, I know it.
Yeah.
So it's.
You have to do it on a case by case. I think you gotta do it case by case. You can't put the same idea on like what you're saying until you research it further, like what you're saying. You can have the assumption, but go down and do the homework and actually physically measure the faces, get the software and put all the faces, because that's the kind of research that's gonna negate or prove
Yeah.
whether it's wrong or right. You can say it and believe it, but take it further, take it a step further.
I
You
don't
know?
If I, anyhow.
That's what I would say to you.
I cannot buy those things and tell me you're Caesar while you're at it, I cannot
Right.
buy that because of the research method. And Mary Stewart, it's okay, because you really have all the pictures and the painting and,
Right.
but I wouldn't.
Well, it's hard when you get further back because there's less documentation. All I can show you, and what you start thinking when you see some of these matches,
Yeah.
it's too coincidental.
I don't
Like
see
when I
any
saw the
coincidence
Trumps
that you-
in my line, I was like, oh my God, you know, and so for me, it's believable. But I've been doing this a long time. It doesn't mean I'm gonna be right about every identity, but to the best of my knowledge, looking at case studies, this feels right to me. And I'm seeing the attributes, and even more convincing is the attributes of me today, and even in my past lives, there's some attributes matching to Artemis. Like if you look at Mary Stewart and Francis, which I have no control over the documentation of the history and who writes what, and there's a lot of it. Mary Stewart and Francis were excellent marksmen. So were Artemis and Apollo. That's a match. That would be considered a match. So you will see crossovers.
There is a lot.
And it
of men
becomes
that
more
were
believable.
excellent with those skills throughout history.
Well, sure.
You know,
What I'm
it's-
saying is the more you have to decide what's right to you, and I have to decide what's right to me, and I respect your opinion. For me, I'm seeing enough that makes me feel it's right because the methodology is repeating from one person to the next. I'm getting the matches to these other identities. So that's up to you to decide. For me, it's compelling enough to where it makes me go, whoa, wait a minute. You know, that's just too ironic. That's too coincidental. So anybody can say, well, that's not proof. That's why I say to people, it makes for a more compelling case the more matches you have. And I think most researchers in the field would agree with that. The more matches in that manner that you have, the more compelling.
But you can also say, I will look for the matches, and then you skew the data, because you look for specific data and push away the rest that would have been good. And I think that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't.
So.
Yeah, I don't feel the same, just because I'm seeing patterns in other cases of people, the same kind of things. You'll see dates matching, you'll see attributes matching, and that's what Paul was trying to do in his work. He was trying to combine biometrics with your attributes, characteristic traits, the soul genome. There's certain aspects of your personality that stay with you from one incarnation to the next. I can even tell you, I think my blood type is the same as it was as Mary Stuart, and I think it's the same as when I was St. Mary Helena Salome. And the AB blood type goes back to the Christ line. It goes back to the Armenians. I think that was the origination point. What's the blood type on the Shroud of Turin? Oh, that's funny, it's AB, which is my blood type. Mary Stuart, when you read about her, she's sick all the time. And when you have the AB blood type, you've got the A problems and the B problems that you're dealing with. It's not just like somebody who has one blood type, so you're gonna probably get sick more often. So that was like, wow, I think there's a possibility that because I know that lifetime's paralleling this one, I think there's a possibility that my blood type has been the same. It might not be like this for everybody, but in those 3 incarnations, there's a darn good chance that my blood type was the same. So it's kind of like another little affirmation that you're looking at where you think, like Val's quote said, they're markers. They're markers that indicate that something's going on here, there's another story. And when the people around you start matching in the same way, again, you're going in your head, law of probability. What's the probability that they're getting kind of the similar matches, even the 3s and 7s? You know, like I was seeing that with my father. And it's harder for me to do other people because I don't know them personally. It's harder for me to pull those out unless they're a historical person. And even then, when they're documenting history, they're not necessarily looking for 3s and 7s. So there's stuff that's probably even being missed that I can't pull out because I don't know that about them. It takes each person to go in and dig and do their own stories. So all I can tell you is the patterns are following from one incarnation to the next, and that's what I'm seeing. That's why I think it's compelling. But, you know, it's up to you. It's up to you to decide, and if you don't think that's them, that's okay. But everything that I'm seeing in indications is telling me I'm going down the right path. That's why I'm getting the matches, because now I know where to look. So it becomes easier. And the only reason why it's easy is because they're documented people. I can't do this if I just know the incarnations where they're not a documented person for obvious reasons. And that's what I tell people, look at your documented cases because it becomes more believable because you're identifying the patterns. And the other thing is too, is the patterns aren't always gonna be the same for everybody. Just because my cases are so matchy-poo doesn't mean it's gonna be that easy for somebody else. And that's the part I don't really know why it's so matchy-poo, but it makes me feel it's a story meant to be told, and that's why I'm going through this process. Yeah.
Will you be able to change patterns by figuring this all out for your family, yourself, others? Is that a reason why to even bring this forward to people, is so that we can figure out things to change something?
No, I brought the Greek part forward because like Jerry Will said in his talk, you have people that are ETs that are walking amongst you, and I'm one of them. I'm the perfect example. And that's really why I brought the Greek identity forward, because I didn't even think this was real. I just thought this was all crap, and why are they giving me mythology? It's not true. So a sequence of events happened that made me go, whoa, I need to go back and look at this. And again, going back to my initial agenda, it's about, it's to bring peace. Because the whole point is you're playing roles, and I think the game's getting close to an end in a sense. I think this is kind of, now that people start waking up and realizing you kind of don't want to play anymore, it's kind of ruined it for me. Like if I had to go back and do that Kundalini experiment before, and what's funny is he really wanted to be wealthy. So here's another characteristic match. He really wanted to be wealthy, and I think it's very funny that in this lifetime he's probably as wealthy as anyone could be. So that was fascinating to me. And they had a very difficult life in the lifetime before. Well, now they're completely different people. So it's like they can go from one spectrum to another. But what's interesting is the date, which I didn't get a chance to show you really yet. This is my dad, okay, in the middle. And this is what caught my attention. Now look at the shape of their faces and the bone structure. Yes, he's 10, so it's a little bit harder to tell. But you notice that kind of the shape of the face, you can see? And that's why I went, oh my God, and I can even kind of tell the way his eyes, see the kind of similarities in how the eyes are photographed? And you bet I'm gonna be watching him like a hawk as he grows up, because I wanna see the comparisons in the facial features. But he was born the same day that my grandfather died.
But there's 9 months difference.
No, my grandfather, not my father. My grandfather died February 18th. He was born, Don Jr. the third was born on February 18th. He's him, So my grandfather's son, I think I have another picture of this where this will make it easier. I know it's confusing. I have like a confusing time to show this. Where's the, okay, this is it. Is that a JPEG? Yes, okay. Watch this. Okay. To the left is my dad and his brother Joey. Joey's the reincarnation of Eric Trump. He died when he was 21. I never got to meet him. He died in a car accident. So this is my dad on the left. Here's Don Jr. This is Don Jr. in his previous life to the right of him. So he died February 18th, 1976. Okay, so my grandfather in that picture above there, my dad was his son, right? Okay, so he died February 18th, my grandfather. Now in this lifetime, it's role reversal. So now my dad is born on the same day that his dad in his previous life died.
On the same day?
Right.
Okay, just the same
Right.
day?
And you will see a crossover, because see how my dad died on 2009, April 19th? Now, he incarnated a few months before. Now this, you do get overlays sometime. I don't know why. I haven't gotten that part in the research, but it can happen, and you're dealing with splits sometimes. But I did specifically ask, if you're wanting to know if somebody, the correct way to ask is, and what I did in this is, because if say like you have splits and you don't know which split you're dealing with, I said, is Don Trump Jr. III the soul aspect? The soul aspect is the key word of my father that I dealt with in this lifetime for me. And I was given a yes. And I'm asking that way because I don't know how many splits he has. I'm just asking, assuming he has splits. And I know it gets confusing when you get into splits, but that's why I'm doing it. I'm saying soul aspect for a reason. So again, they're playing father-son role that they were in the lifetime before. And then you see the date crossover. I couldn't tell you why, but it's a pattern and it's something to notice. And that's why I put it up there. So, and then also too, when I was looking at Trump, I thought it was really funny. These three expressions here, I've seen my dad make these faces. So it's really weird for me when I watch Trump. I can see my dad in Trump. It trips me out still. Because when you wake up and all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, there's a familia tie. And then you notice things you didn't notice before. And I was noticing my dad was making very similar expressions. And I did do a big blow up here. So my dad is on the left there with the dark hair. Now see how similar the smile kind of is? I mean, I don't know, you guys tell me. My dad's the one on the right with the glasses there. I can see it, but I've been around my dad for a long time. So it's easier for me to see. But, and I wish I had more pictures of my dad. Unfortunately, my mom's at the end of her life right now, and I don't have access to all the photos to do some better matches. But for me, that was like, wow. I can see it very much. And was there anything else I wanted to show? I think that's pretty much it. So just to rehash, my point in sharing all this, it's not about who I was, it's important, it's the implications. And that was my point. And what I'm telling you is, I do want to show this. These symbolisms are important to look to because there are parts of your story, and like I said, there's an underlying story in the story, and when you see what the what the meaning and the significance behind, let's see, where's that one? Sorry, it's not going. Let's try that one. What I highlighted down here is the representation for some of these identities for the Red Rose. Look down here, Mary Stuart, Mary Queen of Scots. Aphrodite, that's the reincarnation of Ivanka. And we just got her confirmed. So the Red Rose, oh, that's funny. Why is it that the Red Rose just happened to be the flowers that I picked for my wedding and nothing else? Does it prove anything? No. But again, it's all the things that start adding up that make it more compelling, because you're like, there's so many things that you're pulling out that you're just thinking, that's just kind of ironic. I could have picked, how many flowers? I really wish I could get a statistician to go over the cases and do law of probability on everything, because to me that even proves it more. What's the law of probability that this, and this are lining up? Just to see statistically, what are the odds? Yes, somebody can say that doesn't prove anything, but to me, it makes more compelling when you get the matches. And this wedding was 2002, okay? So 2002, I mean, I didn't know who I was, and I can actually show the receipt of my first reading with Kevin. It was 2011, the spring, I can't remember which month. I had 2 readings in 2011, 1 reading in 2015, 1 reading just 2 weeks ago, 2019. So you're doing things tied to who you were, and that's my point. And for some reason, symbolism seems to stick in people's crawls. They'll be attracted, like I can tell you the fleur de lis, I remember. Red rose, I remember. So you'll see yourself navigate to things, and for some reason, the brain, the way it's set up, it remembers symbolism. And that's kind of what you see there going on, and that's why I'm showing you. I'm giving you ideas of what to look for. And then I can just show you a couple fun pictures, and then I'm pretty much done. Oh, the other thing I wanted to show you, the sin wave. I think this is what's going on. And it kind of gives you a visual. I wish it had the golden age and the bronze age and la la la. So you see the astrology here: Leo, Cancer, Gemini, Taurus, Aries, Pisces. Now we're in the age of Aquarius. And this was the feeling when I was getting that we're going backwards. And when I say backwards, not backwards in intellect, it's like, you know, we started back here at this point, and I can't tell you if these dates are right. It's just the concept. It's not necessarily that it's exactly like this. But we know the stars, we know the astrology, that you have these signs. We know we're in the age of Aquarius, and it feels like we're going back to the way it was. So when people say the future is the past, I feel like I'm going back to Artemis. I feel like I'm going to be a light body again. And when you go back and research Artemis, you read that she was a light body. And one of my identities, the last portion of my name was Debbie, which stands for Shining One. Shining One, no, it doesn't mean I'm special. Artemis, known as Shining One, it means she was a light body. And so I feel very strongly that the intuition inside of me that I can't describe to you, it feels like we're going back to the way it was. And what I'm seeing, what I'm showing you, is I'm seeing our family lines starting to merge. I already know where to look for my mother when she incarnates, when she passes away. I don't know if I'm going to be right, but we're watching because we have a funny feeling we know exactly. And we're seeing our family lines merge. And we think it's going back to the way it was of the times of Atlantis. So future, the past is the future. So that was once the past, but it's then going to be the future, and you're going to see a repeat. Another reason that makes me think that is when they talk about Mars and what happened on Mars. There's a picture of Greek god Pan, his face mask on Mars. I don't know who got it, and I honestly haven't authenticated the picture, but I'm like, what the heck is my nephew's face mask doing on Mars? Were we those same people then? Did we look the same? You have an energy signature, so you're gonna look similar from one case to the next. I don't know everything, I'm asking questions, but that's kind of what's making me feel that. So I'm just sharing, you know, some of the feelings that I'm getting. You know, I can show you my husband, this picture here. So you can see he's King James. When we were in Scotland, I go stand by that picture, and then like go like this. If we had a Bible on the top hat, I would have made him wear it. But you can see this is my husband, and it's a horrible picture of him. I'm sure you hate me for doing this, but anyways, this was in Scotland, and you can tell the way he holds his mouth, you know, and this is when he never lets his hair grow out, but he just did it, and I'm like, let me take your picture, and I'm like trying to get him to pose. And you can see the architectural features. It's not a good one of his eyes, but he does have more rounder eyes like this if you get the right angle. But again, you're putting these people under the microscope and you're comparing them, and it's like, how is it that everybody around you, even this one, this is funny, Angler Tom is one of our incarnations. These are statues. And there's a program, Kevin Ryerson just told me about this. What is it called? Meet Your Art Double. And if you Google that, they're showing, they're using biometrics, and you can submit your picture, and it's running it through all the artwork, and they're getting matches of people. And yes, that's not proof that you're that person. You have to do more homework if you can, but wow, isn't that telling, because they're using biometrics. And in biometrics, it shows you have an energy signature that repeats from one lifetime to the next. Again, why is an FBI profiler embedded in the reincarnation field? But when I saw this is James, my research partner, I was like, oh my God, you look like him, because this is one of his identities. So again, here, what does 12 add up to? The number 3. Royal Trinity, 3, the number 3. And this is what I'm meaning by 3s and 7s following you. There's certain markers that you'll see that move from one incarnation to the next. So the point is, when you start knowing who you are, you know who you were, you understand people are playing roles. And I think that's the most important, is it brings peace, because you understand that person is either there to teach you something or you're there to teach them something, and to stop the fighting, because you're going to be somebody completely different in the next lifetime, and so are they. And then who cares? So learn the lessons with grace, be grateful, and then just move on. And don't understand why I'm pointing the identities. It's not the fixation of who I was, it's what it implies. Because when I pulled up all my cases, okay, and I'm just going to end with this. When I pulled up all my cases, and I think James felt the same way too, but his story is a little bit different than mine because we're two different people. And I started seeing the patterns. That's what got me looking. Oops, I want to do this one, sorry. That's what got me looking, because you have to know about the people in history who you're saying you are to identify some of the patterns. And that's what grabbed my attention, that there was a story within the story, because names were repeating in people's identities within our soul group pertaining to who we were, which suggests a pattern, just like Val said in her statement about markers. And that's why I was so happy to see what you're saying, because that came completely independent of what anything I came across. You were shown this, which we tried to clarify, was it the ether field, is it ET? And we weren't really sure, but it came independent, right? And I don't even know you, but what they were saying is exactly what I'm doing. And I think that tells me that I'm going on the right path. And it won't just be my cases. And like, look at this. And this was kind of explained to me, but I can't tell you scientifically. Don't you think it's a little weird that Greek goddess Artemis statue kind of looks like the shape of Mary Stuart's head in my head? I think it's a little weird. So Kevin was talking about that, and they, I guess back then, did have paintings to work off when they did the statues that have now since been destroyed. So we can't go back and look at them, which is why some of your statues will kind of look like the person of who they were. And he said they did specific measurements when they did the paintings to make them more accurate, that got translated onto the statues. So, but it's been very fun for me, and I've seen enough that I'm so convinced this is going on. There's no doubt. And to me, if you're a scientific person and you want the proof, biometrics is going to be key. And you can put identities. That's why I'm like, why isn't, and maybe it's just because it's not important to him, why hasn't Dave Wilcock used biometrics for his Edgar Casey?
He's not trying to prove anything.
Right, he doesn't care. But to me, with all the flack that he's getting, he should, because that would shut everybody up so fast. And to me, if you're a researcher, you should know.
I think it's better for him. He just lets it go. He doesn't make a big deal out of it. That's
Really?
a smarter thing to do.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I think he's smart in not making a big deal out of it rather than trying to prove a point.
But he makes such a big deal of it on the other end of the spectrum to me that, you know what I mean? Like, if you're not going to make a big deal out of it, then quit bringing it up. He keeps bringing it up, and if you're going to keep bringing it up and using that as basis, then I think you should put the biometrics there, because that would just end everything. And again, it goes back to, why is an FBI profiler in the middle of embedded in the reincarnation field if they don't think there's something to it? This is James. His most current past life is General Patton. And I wanted to show you this so you can see the facial matches. This is General Mattis. This is his split. Notice the name James is the same. Okay, yeah, this is the end. So you can see his baby picture, the color one right here, that's James. This is Patton. See how the skull is kind of very similar in shape? And it was very hard to find pictures of Mattis when he was younger, but you can kind of see the facial similarities. James is about 25 years younger than Mattis. Now see Mattis up against Patton right here. You can see the facial similarities. So these are things that you would look for that help you feel. And of course, if you get James' manuscript, his book is, I think he's putting his book on what do you call it, Kindle. And it's his whole manuscript, and you can see how he came about all of his identities. He has a phenomenal memory. He remembers in between life. He remembers picking his parents. A lot of his memories are the Patton lifetime, And his incarnation, the purpose in this lifetime is because there's a slapping incident that you'll read about with Patton, and he had to fix that karma. So if you want to go back and hear about the slapping story, he's paying for it right now in this lifetime. So he helps special needs children, and that point was to teach compassion. So he's, I would say, the more spiritual aspect of the split, where I think James Mattis is more the intellectual, and when you read about James, he is constantly reading material. He's an avid reader. So just to give you an idea of what some of the things when you're looking for the matches. So thanks for allowing me to share this, and it's up to you to decide what you think is true or not. And I came forward with this because I do think it's part of our story, and when I could see what some of the other Greek gods are doing, I don't see them as nefarious. I see them as flawed humans, just like everybody else, trying to get through the reincarnation wheel, learn their lessons. Yeah, they make mistakes. Trump has ticked off so many people. His ego's inflated. Yeah, I get it. But I don't think it's all bad. I'm not seeing anybody do anything so terrible, but then you have to ask yourself, if this is a computer simulation and it's not really what's real, you and your light body is what's real, what's there to freak out about? You're gonna die, you're gonna incarnate again, and then you're gonna go on to the next adventure. So I just don't get caught up in all the drama and the scariness and all that. I look at what people are doing. That's why I got mad at Tom DeLonge, because I'm like, do you even, and I know he doesn't, if you don't know who these people were in more than one life, how can you say that they're using the Greek god name? You notice his book was released, what was it, 2016?